Hello friends, welcome back to our channel Adami Education. I know it has been quite long since we met last, but I was very busy with a few things. You will get a video on that soon. So today let's directly jump onto the topic. Today we are going to study about reflection of light. This is a chapter from class 9 in ICSE board, and this is a chapter from class 10 in CBSE boards. So let's directly dive into the chapter. So what do you mean by reflection of light? That is the first question. The bouncing back of light in the same medium when it strikes a polished surface is called reflection of light. So reflection is something we are all accustomed to. Whenever light falls on any surface, be it a smooth surface or a polished surface, what happens? The light will bounce back. It will bounce back into the same medium from where it is coming. That means if the light was coming from air, the light will bounce back into the same medium, that is air. Generally, reflection is best observed in case of polished surfaces, but reflection can occur in case of normal rough surfaces as well. So the image below represents a mirror. You must have seen this quite a few times. The reflecting surface is the surface where the reflection or the bouncing back occurs, and the back part of the mirror, that is the silvered surface, which is either silvered with silver or with some other material to give it a polished, shiny look. There are two kinds of reflection. One is known as regular reflection and the other is called irregular reflection. Like you can see the diagram itself. In case of regular reflection, the incident rays which were falling parallelly on a polished surface, they get reflected also parallelly in the same manner. But in case of diffused reflection, or you can call it irregular reflection, the incident rays are initially falling in a parallel beam, but after reflection, because the surface is quite rough, the reflected rays are not parallel to one another, they just bounce back in different directions. So a very interesting thing is that we are able to see the objects around us because of diffuse reflection. If diffuse reflection did not occur, we could only see the object where the light is falling. We couldn't see the nearby objects. So diffuse reflection plays a major role in our day-to-day life. Now there are certain terms, some technical terms which are related with reflection. First of all, let's see the diagram. The ray which is falling on the surface or on the mirror, that is known as incident ray. The reflected ray is the ray which gets bounced back into the same medium. Now, if you observe, there is a dotted line in the center known as the normal. Normal is a perpendicular line which is drawn at the point where the incident ray was falling. As you can see in the diagram itself, this is the point where the normal has been drawn. And normal is always perpendicular or at 90 degrees to the reflecting surface. So for any sort of reflection, normal will be drawn accordingly. So since this is a straight surface, you are able to see the normal is drawn in a very simple manner. But in the previous case, like in this case, in each of the incident rays, we will have a respective normal. Now there are two angles which has been mentioned, angle I and angle R. So what is angle I? Angle I is known as the angle of incidence and angle R is known as the angle of reflection. Now what are these? Let's go through the definitions and let's try to understand. Incident ray. The light ray striking a reflecting surface is called the incident ray. So like you can see in the diagram itself, the ray which was falling on the reflecting surface initially, that is called the incident ray. Point of incidence. The point at which the incident ray strikes the reflecting surface is called the point of incidence, that is this particular point where the incident ray was falling on the mirror or on the reflecting or polished surface, that is known as the point of incidence. Normal is always drawn on the point of incidence. Now reflected ray. The light ray obtained after reflection from the surface in the same medium in which the incident ray is traveling is called reflected ray. So after the reflection has occurred, the ray which will bounce back into the same medium. This is a very interesting thing because reflection and refraction have this difference, that in case of reflection, the reflected ray will bounce back into the same medium. Later in the next video, when we study about refraction, you will see that it is different out there. So reflected ray is the bounced back ray which moves into the same medium as the incident ray was moving. Now normal. The perpendicular drawn to the surface at the point of incidence is called the normal. It is always at 90 degrees to the mirror or to the reflecting surface. Now what is angle of incidence and angle of reflection? As you can see in the diagram, it's quite clear, but let's just go through the definition once again for much more clarity. The angle which the incident ray makes with the normal at the point of incidence is called the angle of incidence. It is denoted by the letter I. So, this particular angle, the angle between the incident ray and the normal, many people make this mistake. They consider this angle to be the angle of incidence. It is wrong. So, angle of incidence is the angle between the incident ray and the normal. Similarly, what will be the angle of reflection? Angle between the reflected ray and the normal. Okay, always you will remember that we have to consider the angle value in comparison with the normal, not with the mirror or the reflecting surface. So don't consider this angle or this angle, it will be wrong. Now there are two laws of reflection, and these laws are applicable to every type of mirror. In the next video, when we learn about curved mirrors, that is convex and concave mirror, you will see that the laws of reflection are applicable to those mirrors as well. Now let's see what are the two laws. The angle of incidence I is equal to the angle of reflection R, always. So angle I will always be equal to angle R. Next, the incident ray, the reflected ray and the normal at the point of incidence lie in the same plane. Of course, whenever reflection occurs, the incident ray, the normal and the reflected ray will always lie in the same plane. That plane is known as plane of reflection or plane of incidence. You can call it either. So plane is a plane surface where all the phenomena is occurring. Reflection of a light ray which falls normally on a plane mirror. Normally doesn't mean like normally. Normally means at 90 degree. Okay. So what happens if a ray is moving at an angle of 90 degree? Please ignore the sounds at the background. There are some cars moving nearby. Okay. So when a light ray falls at a perpendicular angle, or you can say at an angle of 90 degree on the surface, what happens? As you can see, the ray has fallen at an angle of 90 degree. And after reflection, it is getting bounced back in the same angle. Okay, so in this case, what happens? What is the angle of incidence? As you can see that there is no angle between the incident ray and the normal. So the angle of incidence is 0 degree. Okay, many people again make this mistake. They consider it to be 90 degree. But how? What did we learn? The angle of incidence is equal to the angle between the incident ray and the normal. In this case, you can see no difference between the incident ray and the normal. So the angle of incidence is 0 degree. Similarly, since you have just studied that the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection, if I is 0 degree, R also is 0 degree. I guess it is clear. Now coming to different types of images which can be formed. So there are two types of images. I guess you have a little bit idea about it. Let's see. Real image and virtual image. So what is a real image and what is a virtual image? First of all, let me ask you guys a question. The image that we see of ourselves in the looking mirror, is it a real image or is it a virtual image? It is a virtual image. Why so? Because the image of ours, it is formed inside the mirror. It is not formed on a white screen as such, outside. It's not formed in our environment, isn't it? It is formed inside the mirror. So it is a virtual image. Now, what do you see in case of a virtual image? It is an erect image. That means your head is remaining in the upright position only and your legs are in the downward position itself. But in case of real image, you know what happens? If the object is like this, the image will be formed in the inverted position. So whenever you see that the object and the image are exactly alike, that means it is a virtual image. That means the plane mirror that we use in our homes for looking at ourselves, that forms a virtual image always. Okay, now let's see what is the basic difference between these two types of images. A real image is formed due to the actual intersection of the reflected rays. Since the term is real, that means the rays after reflection are actually intersecting at a particular point to form the image. Now let me just give you a small idea about what happens in case of reflection. Minimum we need 2 rays for every point on the object. So if it is a point object means an object which is in the form of a very small dot or something like that. So in case of a dot or a point object, we need minimum 2 rays. Minimum, there are actually so many rays, but minimum 2 rays are essential to form the image. But in case of an extended object, that means a large object, we need multiple rays. Now what happens? You will see it in the next slide itself. After reflection, the rays will intersect at a point, and at that point itself the image is formed. So in case of a real image, what happens? The rays after reflection are actually intersecting, and that's why they can form a real image on a screen. Screen is something just like a projector screen that you see in your schools. Okay, but in case of a virtual image, what happens? Since the image is formed inside the mirror, and inside the mirror it's something which is non-existent at all. So inside the mirror, when an image is formed, the ray of light after reflection does not actually meet, but we assume it to be meeting inside so that the image formation can be understood. So we will understand more about it in the next few slides. I have a few diagrams which will help you understand this much more clearly. A virtual image is formed when the reflected rays meet if they are produced backwards. That's why always dotted lines are used to represent a virtual image. A real image can be obtained on a screen, and a virtual image cannot be obtained on a screen. It is formed inside the mirror. A real image is inverted with respect to the object. I have just shown you how it looks. And in case of virtual image, what happens? The image is upright or erect with respect to the object. Now there are certain examples of which type of mirrors form what type of image. Let's see. The image of a distant object formed by a concave mirror. So we will study about this in the next video itself, but whenever a concave mirror forms an image, generally it will always form a real image. That means you can obtain the image on a screen. Now in case of a virtual image, let's see what are the types of mirrors which can perform this type of activity. The image of an object formed by a plane mirror, I have already given you the example, and also convex mirror can form a virtual image. So I guess it's clear till here. Now let's see the one which I was talking about. Image formation of a point object and image formation of an extended object. In both the cases, the image formed is a virtual image. As you can see, it is formed inside the mirror. So that's why dotted lines have been used. So let's see. So initially, let's consider the object is point O. From O, a ray of light was falling on the mirror, and after reflection, it is moving in this particular direction. Another ray, I told you 2 minimum rays are essential for finding out the image position in case of a point object. So another ray is coming from the point and it is getting reflected. So after reflection, they are reaching the eye, but those reflected rays, when they are joined by dotted lines, we are going to see that the image is forming at the point where the rays are intersecting. So this is what happens. Now in case of an extended object, what we have done, we have taken 2 rays for the first point and 2 rays for the second point. Actually there are many more rays which can form the image, but we are just using 2 rays for much more clarity in the diagram. So in this case as well, let's see, from point A, 1 ray is going and it is getting reflected, and the second ray is also going and getting reflected. Now when these 2 rays are produced backwards, that is into the mirror, the point where they intersect forms the point A of the object. As you can see, this point has been reflected here. The same thing happens in point B. Let's see, from point B, a ray has gone to the mirror and it has gotten reflected, and from point B, 1 more ray has been reflected, and when we produce them backwards, we get the image of point B. So this is how images are formed. Okay. Now there is a small derivation which is totally based on maths. Let's see, it's very simple. Prove that the perpendicular distance between the object and the mirror is equal to the distance between the image and the mirror. You must have observed this a lot while you see your reflection in the mirror. The distance between you and the mirror is always equal to the distance between your image and the mirror. So we are going to prove it mathematically. Over here we have taken a point object O. So from O we have taken 2 rays. I told you 2 rays are minimum necessary for forming the image. 1 ray is moving like this and it has gotten reflected. Now we have produced it backwards to form that point. Now there is another ray that we have used, a ray which was falling normally, and we know after reflection it will again move normally, that is in a perpendicular manner. So if I produce it backwards, the point where they will meet is the image. Now what do we have to exactly prove? Let's see. We have to prove that OM, that is the distance between the mirror and the object, is equal to IM, that is the distance between the image and the mirror. Let's see. First of all, as you can see, we have already mentioned angle I and angle R, angle of incidence and angle of reflection. Now it's quite clearly visible that these two it's clearly visible that these two lines are parallel to one another. So if these two lines are parallel, that means if this angle is I, this angle will also be I according to alternate interior angles. You have studied this in class 8 most probably. So let's write OF is equal to, OF is parallel to NA. Therefore, angle FOA is equal to I. The reason is alternate interior angles. Now, these two lines are parallel like we have just seen. So if this angle is R, this angle will also be R, right? Corresponding angles. So again, angle OIA is equal to R. So corresponding angles. Now, let me just erase it to make it easy for you. So if this angle is I, this angle is I and this angle is R, we know according to the laws of reflection angle I is equal to angle R. That means this angle and this angle, they are equal to one another. So let's write angle FOA is equal to angle OIA. The reason is by laws of reflection. Now, this line is common for both these triangles OFA and FAI. Let me write which triangles I am considering. OFA and triangle FIA. So one angle is equal, we have seen already, and the side FA is common for both of the triangles. Now let's see what another value we can take to prove them congruent. As you can see, this angle is 90 degree because I told you that the ray which was falling out there was falling normally or falling perpendicularly. So this particular angle is also equal. So what do we see? Two angles are equal and one side is equal. That means these two triangles which we had considered, they are congruent to one another, right? And if two triangles are congruent to one another, all their corresponding sides are also equal to one another. So what can we say from the congruency that we have just proved? That this side OF is equal to the side FI, right? Corresponding sides of congruent triangles. This is what we wanted to prove, isn't it? That the distance between the object and the mirror is equal to the distance between the image and the mirror. Hence, we can prove the following by congruency. So I guess the derivation is clear. Make sure whenever I am teaching you some derivation, write it down in your copy and practice it by writing. Just by seeing, you cannot practice a derivation. 2 to 3 times you write and practice, you will see it will easily, and you will be able to understand it very easily. Next, coming to lateral inversion, a very common phenomena, we all know about it. So what is lateral inversion? Lateral inversion is the phenomenon where the left and the right sides of an object appear reversed in a mirror. The left side becomes the right and the right side becomes the left. It appears to be. So as you can see in the second diagram itself, the word star, when it is placed in front of a mirror, it becomes inverted. Like the left becomes the right and right becomes the left. You must have observed the same thing, that ambulance, the word ambulance is written in an inverted manner, so that when a person in front of the ambulance sees that word in his or her rear view mirror, he is able to see the exact word and he can, let the ambulance pass by. And you can also try this at home. Write your name in a piece of paper and stand in front of the mirror. You will be able to see that your name has been inverted. The left and the right are just getting interchanged. Actually, when you see your reflection, it's very difficult to identify because more or less you feel that it's the same. The left and the right are exactly like you are in original. But actually, when you write down a word and then you observe it, then you actually understand how lateral inversion works. So I will expect that you all will try this at home after this video. Now let's see what are the characteristics of image which are formed by a plane mirror. By now I guess you are already accustomed to it. The image is upright or erect. The image is always in a straight manner. Next, the image is virtual because it is not formed on a screen, it is formed inside the mirror. The image is of the same size as that of the object. You must have seen this at your home itself. When you look at yourself in the mirror, your image, is it larger than you or is it smaller than you? It is of the same size as you, isn't it? So, the image formed by a plane mirror is always of the same size as that of the object. Now, there is a numerical. We will do it later. Let's finish the slide first. Uses of plane mirror. The first and the foremost thing is looking at your beautiful and handsome faces, of course. Next, there are devices known as periscopes, which are used in submarines and which are also used in the army. From a level below, you can see what is happening at the top. So there are two mirrors in case of a periscope, which are placed at an angle of 45 degree each, as you can see in the diagram itself. Whatever object is here can easily be viewed by the observer here, because the light is getting reflected two times, because there are two mirrors. Similarly, there is an interesting device called kaleidoscope. You can even try this at your home. Three mirrors are attached to one another at angles of 60 degree, basically forming an equilateral triangle sort of thing. And small colored glass pieces or bangle pieces are placed at the bottom, and when it is moved, you can see various beautiful patterns. As you can see, I have given three examples here. It looks really beautiful. It is also observed in various types of science centers and also in fairs. Next is a very interesting device and a very useful device as well, solar cooker. Using solar energy, it's not actually using any solar powered battery and all that. No, it's not the same thing. So the mirror is reflecting the sunlight and it is concentrating it in a particular position so that it can heat up the object, and it can be used for cooking food or for heating purpose as well. Okay, so plane mirrors are also used for this purpose, and many a times spherical mirrors are also used for this purpose. So it is using sunlight or solar energy directly. It is not converting it into electrical energy or something. Okay. Now coming to the numerical. An object is at a distance of 25 centimeter in front of a plane mirror. So let's make the plane mirror first of all. The object is placed at a distance of 25 centimeter. Okay. The mirror is shifted 5 centimeter away from the object. Now what happens? The mirror has been shifted 5 centimeter away from the object. That means now this is the green represents the final position of the mirror. Find the new distance between the object and its image. So if the object was now at a distance of 30 centimeter from the mirror, the image should also be at a distance of 30 centimeter from the mirror. I don't have space, that's why I'm making it close, but actually the image will also be at a distance of 30 centimeter from the mirror. So what is the question? The new distance between the object and the image. So what is the total distance between the object and the image? 30 plus 30, that is 60 centimeter. Next, the distance between the two positions of the image. So initially the image was formed at a distance of 25 centimeter. Now the image is formed at a distance of 30 centimeter. So what is the difference between the two distances? 5 centimeter. I guess this numerical is clear, and I guess the class was also understandable to you. If you have any doubt, please feel free to write down in the comment section, and also stay tuned for the next part of this chapter. Till then, bye everybody, keep studying.